So now Kendrick Lamar is a lyric thief, Pharrell Williams apparently needed Drake to give him clout, and Drake is the main character of hip-hop because a few clip farm accounts stitched together screenshots and vibes and called it a case file. That is where we're at. And what's wild is, the more they tried to expose Kendrick, the more they accidentally exposed themselves. Because half these takes only make sense if you just got here, you don't know what interpolation is, and you think a sample lawsuit means somebody got caught copy-pasting bars in 4K. But here's the part that should make everybody sit up. This isn't just fan talk. This is narrative warfare. It's people trying to rewrite how credit works in rap, how producer tags work in rap, and how history works in rap, all to prop up one story. And when you follow the logic all the way down, it doesn't even protect Drake. It makes him look like he can't stop orbiting Kendrick's shadow while screaming he's unbothered. And in a second, I'm going to show you the exact moment this Kendrick stealing lyrics thing collapses, because it hinges on one sloppy headline and one word they keep using wrong, and once you catch it, you can't unsee it. Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit like, and subscribe. Let's get into it. Alright, let's set the table, because this whole thing is getting mixed up on purpose. The story right now is simple on the surface. You've got Drake fans, yes, the loud corner of the fanbase, the main char mob, pushing three big claims at the same time. Claim 1, Kendrick Lamar is stealing lyrics, and they point at lawsuits or side-by-side lyric posts like it's a smoking gun. Claim 2, Kendrick borrows bars from older rap, which they frame like it's some new scandal, even though hip-hop was built on reference, flips, and callbacks. And claim 3, this one is so goofy it loops back around into being fascinating. Drake gave Pharrell clout because of a 4-count style intro that people associate with certain production choices. Now, why does this matter right now? Because we're not just talking about who has better diss tracks or who won some moment on a timeline. This is about credibility. If you can brand Kendrick as a biter, you don't just dent his rep, you try to dent the one thing he's always been armored with. Craft. And if you can reframe Drake as the main character, you're trying to turn every other artist's success into a side quest that only exists because he allowed it. And let's be real, that's money too. Streams, tours, press, brand deals, public perception moves like currency. The culture doesn't reward the best argument, it rewards the most repeated one. So when these claims go viral, even if they're flimsy, they still do what they're designed to do, plant doubt. So the question isn't, are people arguing online? People argue online about the color of the sky. The question is, are these claims built on facts and context or on confusion and clip edits? Let's start with what we can actually see. First piece of surface evidence, the lawsuit headline game. You've probably seen some version of it in your feed. Someone posts, Kendrick sued for stealing, circles a name like Bill Withers, then captions it like Kendrick got caught taking lyrics. But when you slow it down, most of what gets cited in these viral posts isn't even about lyrics, it's about rights, often samples, compositions, publishing splits, or who owns what portion of a work. And yes, I'm using often because I'm not going to pretend every single lawsuit in music is the same, but I am going to tell you the truth. A lot of people use the word lyrics because it hits harder, not because it's accurate.
And does everybody understand how easy it is to file something in court? A filing is not a verdict. A claim is not proof. A headline is not the paperwork. Yet these posts get treated like the gavel already came down because the goal isn't accuracy, it's a dunk. Second piece of surface evidence, the side-by-side caught compilations. This is the one where they'll put Kendrick's line next to some older line, maybe a movie quote like, I see dead people, maybe an older rap phrase, maybe a well-known pop culture bit, and they'll go, look, stolen. And I need you to hear me. Quoting, flipping, and reworking recognizable lines is not automatically biting. Half the time it's the point. It's a signal. It's a wink. It's rap doing what rap has done for decades, taking shared language and making it land in a new way. If an artist drops a bar that the whole world already knows on a major release, do you think they believe nobody will notice? Or do you think they're counting on you noticing? That's the first reality check. Third piece of surface evidence, the Pharrell clout claim. This one has been floating around as nobody talked about Pharrell's count-offs until Drake did it, or Drake made that style famous. And it's like, what are we doing here? Count-ins exist in every genre. They're in funk, rock, pop, hip-hop. Sometimes it's a band leader cue, sometimes it's a vibe setter, sometimes it's just a producer being playful. And yes, Pharrell has signature moves people recognize. Ad-libs, drum choices, minimalist pockets, that Neptune's bounce. So fans attach patterns to him. But pretending Pharrell needed a Drake moment to be talked about in music circles is like saying somebody gave clout to a chef because they learned what salt is. It's not even pro-Drake. It's telling on yourself. It's announcing you just started paying attention. And then the fourth surface piece, which ties the whole thing together, the main character talk. You've got people saying Drake is Thanos, Drake is the protagonist, the industry is against him, everybody teams up on him. But you can't be the most playlisted guy in the room and also the secret underdog the system is starving. Those two stories don't fit in the same body. So already, from what's visible, you can see the pattern. Big conclusions, thin support, loud confidence. And if you think this is where it ends, nah. And oh, do I have more for you. Because the main character mob is going to hate the next part. We're about to get into how other artists, producers, and even radio people react when these narratives pop up. Because the culture always tells on itself in the comments and the side conversations. And I want you to watch how fast Kendrick is stealing turns into, actually, it's homage, the moment you bring up anybody else doing the exact same thing. Keep that same energy, right? Because the next clip-level detail is where this whole exposed storyline starts wobbling. Now let's move into the cultural layer, because this is where the online stuff meets real-world hip-hop talk. First cultural piece, producer and songwriter discourse. People who actually work around records tend to separate three things that fans keep mashing together. 1. Biting lyrics. 2. Interpolation and homage. 3. Sample and composition disputes. In producer circles, that difference matters because it changes what credit even means. If a producer flips a melodic idea that resembles something else, that can become a rights issue without anybody stealing in the way fans mean it. If a writer references a classic line, that can be homage. And if somebody lifts a full verse pattern and tries to hide it, that's when the word bite starts getting used with real heat. And what you see online right now is people skipping the whole middle. No nuance, just thief. Why? Because nuance doesn't trend like outrage trends. Second cultural piece, the fan community hypocrisy being called out in real time. Go look at how these threads play out. On X, TikTok comments, Reddit, wherever you live. You'll see people say Kendrick referencing a well-known phrase is stealing, but then they'll turn around and call Drake doing the same thing genius, flipping, reframing, being witty. And listen, I'm not even mad at fans liking what they like, that's the game. But don't pretend you're running a courtroom when you're really running a fan club. Because if we're going to be strict for everybody. If we're going to be loose for everybody. The problem is the switching. The problem is the rules changing mid-argument like it's a video game patch. Third cultural piece, the Drake fatigue conversation that keeps resurfacing, especially from radio and DJ spaces. There have been viral clips over the years. One that's been circulating again lately is reportedly from DJ Charisma, a radio DJ, where the point is basically radio priorities and station programming can push an artist so hard that the audience gets burnt out. And I want to be careful here because radio talk is messy and clips get chopped. But the larger truth is non-controversial. Radio has lists, playlists have strategy, and big artists get heavy rotation because that's how the business sells certainty. So when you hear people say the industry is against Drake, and in the same breath you hear stories about mandatory spins and heavy rotation, it's not hating to notice the mismatch. It's just math. Now, to be fair, here's the counter-argument I know someone is typing already. But Kendrick fans do the same thing. They excuse everything Kendrick does. And yes,
Sometimes they do. Every big artist has a defensive fan base. Nobody is pure. That's not the point. The point is, this specific wave of Kendrick exposed content isn't built like a good faith critique. It's built like a gotcha montage. And the second you ask for receipts that match the claim, actual lyric theft, not a sample dispute, not a reference, not a public homage, the argument starts sliding sideways into personal attacks, name-calling, and moving goalposts. Which is exactly why we have to pivot now, because the real story isn't even Kendrick versus Drake anymore.
The real story is how the machine encourages this kind of sloppy expose content and how fan armies get used like free labor. Here's the pattern interrupt. Once you step out of Stan logic, you realize stealing lyrics is a word trick that blends two separate systems, art and rights, so people can win arguments without doing the work. Let's talk industry, because this is the layer that explains why these narratives keep popping up. First systemic angle: copyright, publishing, and the difference between composition and lyrics. In music law, a dispute can be about the underlying composition, melody, chord progression, a recognizable part of a musical work, or it can be about a sample, which is literal audio being used. Lyrics can be part of it, sure, but lawsuit exists does not automatically mean lyrics were stolen. Most fans don't read filings, they read captions, and captions are written to trigger you, not inform you. So when you see a headline get passed around like proof, ask the basic questions. What part is being claimed? Who owns what? Was it a sample clearance issue? Was it an interpolation credit dispute? Was it a split disagreement? Because those are boring questions, but boring questions are how you get the truth. Second systemic angle: content incentives. The platform rewards speed, certainty, and conflict. If you upload, "Here's a nuanced breakdown of interpolation norms in hip-hop," you might get respect, but you won't always get clicks. If you upload "Kendrick exposed for stealing" with a red circle and a shocked face, you're speaking the algorithm's love language. And stans, whether they know it or not, become distribution. They clip it, stitch it, reply to it, argue under it, and push it into more feeds. That's why these narratives don't die when they get debunked. Debunks don't spread as well as accusations. An accusation is a spark. A debunk is homework. Third systemic angle. This one connects directly to the Pharrell clout claim and the main character myth. Branding. Big artists are brands, and brands want to feel like the center of the universe. The easiest brand story to sell is "everything runs through me." That's the superhero model. But hip-hop isn't the MCU. It's a network, regions, scenes, producers, writers, DJs, club records, mixtape eras, streaming eras. No one person is the source code for all of it. So when someone says Drake gave clout to Pharrell, what they're really doing is applying brand logic to culture history. They're trying to turn credit into a trickle-down story. The star shines, everyone else reflects. But Pharrell's legacy didn't come from one cosign. It came from years of work, hits, sound, influence, a whole production lane. You can argue taste all day, but you can't argue time. And here's the part that always gets missed. This main character framing actually harms Drake's artistry in the long run because it tells the world he needs to be the axis of every story. If Kendrick wins a moment, because Drake. If Pharrell gets talked about, because Drake. If anybody else trends, because Drake. That doesn't make Drake look powerful. It makes him look like he can't exist unless he's absorbing someone else's light. Now, I want to be clear. I'm not saying Drake doesn't matter. He's one of the biggest artists of his era. That's fact. What I'm saying is the narrative being pushed by the main character mob is manufactured in a way that ignores how the industry actually works, how hip-hop credit actually works, and how audiences actually remember music. Because audiences don't remember who screamed "Stolen" the loudest. They remember what hit him in the chest. And that brings us to the truth bomb, because once you connect all three layers, surface clips, cultural reaction, and industry mechanics, the Kendrick exposed thing flips on its head. Here's the major reveal. The loudest Kendrick stole lyrics wave isn't really about proving Kendrick stole. It's about muddying language so homage, interpolation, and rights disputes all sound like the same crime. That's it. That's the trick. They're counting on the average viewer not knowing the difference between a reference and a rip. They're counting on the average viewer not caring that a sample issue is not a lyric theft issue. They're counting on the fact that most people won't dig past the first screenshot. And once the word thief sticks in a casual viewer's mind, the correction never travels as far as the stain. And the funniest part? Well, not funny, but telling, is how fast the argument collapses when you apply it evenly. Because if you treat every recognizable line as stolen,
don't just hit Kendrick. You hit Drake, you hit Jay-Z, you hit Kanye, you hit the whole tradition of rap being in conversation with itself. Hip-hop is built on shared language. Braggadocio isn't copyrighted. Common phrases aren't owned. Even some iconic quotes are used because they're iconic. The question is intent and execution. Did you transform it? Did you credit it when needed? Did you make it new? Did you hide it? Did you lift structure? Did you lift the heart of it? And once you ask those real questions, the main char mob has to pivot. So they pivot to vibes, they pivot to insults, they pivot to, well, Kendrick's music is trash anyway. Notice how we started at he stole lyrics and ended at I don't like him. That's not a case, that's a tantrum dressed as a thesis. And the Pharrell cloud claim fits the same template. It's not an argument about production history, it's a loyalty pledge. It's a way to say, my guy is so big, he made you notice everybody else. But it backfires, because it basically admits you weren't paying attention to Pharrell until you had a reason to defend Drake. So if you're watching this and you're a Drake fan who actually cares about craft, ask yourself, do you want your legacy defended by people who don't know the difference between a sample dispute and lyric theft? Because that's who is holding the mic right now. Now we landed, because there's a reason this stuff doesn't stick to Kendrick the way they want it to. Kendrick Lamar's whole public identity, for better or worse, is built on the work, the albums, the writing, the performances, the way records age. You don't have to call him your favorite, you don't even have to like his voice, but you can't honestly act like his lane is shortcut. The guy's reputation is the opposite of lazy. Meanwhile, the main char mob is trying to win on technicalities they don't understand, while Kendrick's fans, and honestly a lot of neutral hip-hop fans, are judging what they can feel, impact, replay, the way a record becomes a moment without begging you to believe it's a moment. And here's the contrast that sums up the whole video in one line. Kendrick's wins look like work, and these exposés look like coping. Go back to what we saw. The lawsuit headline gets used wrong. The side-by-side references get framed like scandals. The Pharrell claim reveals a lack of history. The main char myth contradicts the reality of industry support. Every layer of it depends on you not checking the basics. So what happens long term? The culture course corrects. It always does. Not because people are saints, but because music has receipts. Time is the harshest judge. A forced narrative can trend for a weekend. A great record can live for years. And to my viewers who actually love hip-hop, not just one artist, keep your standards consistent. That doesn't mean you can't pick sides. It means you can't pick facts. If you can admit your guy has done references, has done flips, has done homages, then you can have an honest talk about what's fair and what's foul. If you can't do that, you're not defending an artist, you're defending a fantasy. And this is only the start, because this Kendrick exposed cycle is going to keep mutating. The next wave won't even be about lyrics. It'll be about credits, or charts, or who moved who, or some new clip that gets treated like gospel because it's edited well. So here's what I want you to watch for next. Whenever a new accusation drops, look for the same 3 moves. 1. A confident caption with no paperwork. 2. A pile-on from accounts that never post anything but Stan War content. 3. A pivot to personal insults the moment someone asks for specifics. If you see those 3, you already know what it is. If you made it this far, hit subscribe, because we're going to keep doing this the right way, breaking down what's real, what's claimed, and what's just engineered noise. And if you want the next video to go even deeper, I'm cooking one on how main character marketing has warped hip-hop debate, how labels and platforms benefit when fan bases fight, why certain narratives get boosted, and why the loudest takes are almost never the smartest ones. Because the next time you see exposed in all caps, the real question isn't who got exposed, it's who got played.